Okay. Part 3 though. Can I talk about anything but AI? No, not yet. I still have to finish the damn topic. Oh my god. Okay, harnesses and CLI tests. If you know good harness that can handle local models, and by that I don't mean having a chat, I mean having agentic tooling, capabilities for local models, then I will gladly test them, and I will test on something that resembles gaming computer from let's say if you made smart decisions from 4 or 5 years ago. And yes, I realize that there are still people who have 8 gigabytes GPUs. In your case, it will still be slower. I did always warn people not to, like for 4 or 5 years now, I said that 12 gigabytes was minimum and 16 gigabytes was, something that ideally, if you weren't completely money constrained, you should have thought of it as minimum. Which is why 30, 80, 10 gigabyte was annoying for me, because yes, it was 10 gigabytes, not 8. But I bought 6700 non-XT with 10 gigabyte of VRAM because I needed, because my previous card died, and I needed something, and I refused to buy an 8 gigabyte card. And it was during this, super high prices stuff, so yeah, I refused to buy a card with the same amount of memory as I had, 40 years before. It doesn't make sense to me. 3080 with 12 gigabytes, not great. From that generation, 30 series from Nvidia would be decent if there were more 16 gigabyte cards. Okay, I will talk in a moment what might be useful and what might not be useful for running AI inference, if you want to really. Okay. Now, the most powerful graphics card I have is an equivalent of 2080 Super, so with 16 gigabytes of VRAM, so it's not completely useless. It's actually very powerful and nice. I don't know if desktop 2080s had 16 gigabytes of VRAM, 2080 Super that is, because my card is like downclocked a couple percent down, but yeah. So if that was available, which I don't think it was, I don't think 20 series had 16 gigabyte, or maybe just 2080 Super had, or 2080 Ti had 16 gigabyte version, because, or the Titan version had 16 gigabytes, something like this, because Nvidia was very stingy with VRAM. Because yes, back then 8 gigabytes was barely enough to play. Not exactly probably in 4K, but at least you could. From 30 series had, again, the 3080 having 10 gigabytes, and later 12 gigabytes is okay, but for 3080 that's a mismatch. It should have had 16 gigabytes. Or rather, the way the subsystem is segmented, 20 to 24 gigabytes, you know, because, but yeah, they wouldn't, of course. I should probably at some point explain lithography reasons why you cannot have too much of VRAM, because it's, you know, memory bus width basically 512-bit is maximum of what you can have. On a chip, on a reasonable graphics chip, and even then it's a lot of area, because you need, well, it's perimeter, because you need to put it around the chip on a monolithic die at least. I'll be back in a moment. I'll probably stitch it with another video. Okay, I'm back. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, GPUs. And since 30 series, there was no reason for Nvidia not to give 16 gigabytes. Majority of cards. I do like that AMD gave a bit more, usually. Of course, they have their bad products, but if you are, of course, interested in AI, at least partially, AMD is not as good as Nvidia in AI. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It still accelerates the hell out of stuff. But so if your use is primary for AI, you probably should go on desktop, at least. You probably should go with GeForce stuff, Nvidia stuff. At least if you are not interested in, you know, compiling stuff for your GPU specifically. If it's just, you know, a bit to play around, and your main interest is gaming, buy whatever you want. I think I've seen recently AMD GPUs going back down in price again, despite VRAM and RAM and SSD shortages. They are a relatively good deal right now. They are 16 gigabytes, so if you are playing with AI a bit, that's what I would consider a bare minimum of VRAM, to have some kind of capability. But it's also honestly bare minimum if you want to play. If you want to play 4K, I would say 16 gigabyte is bare minimum. If you want to play 1440p ultra high textures and stuff like this, you probably also want 16 gigabyte. Even on 1080p in some games, especially if you want, again, better looking textures, you just want a bigger VRAM buffer. So, like there are cards like 4060 that have 8 and 16 gigabytes version, and they are clocked the same, but when you have more VRAM, you have faster game and better looking game, because you can have more textures, more quality textures. Okay, take care, bye, and suggest some kind of topic for me to talk. Bye.